Okay, welcome back, dear listeners. And now let's say positional sacrifice of the pawn in the opening stage, which is still a theory. So there was a pattern of defense. It's still theory. A lot of games were played here, and the main move here is bishop d6. But when I was analyzing that position, I managed to find a really interesting continuation where black sacrifices the pawn, but gets some other positional pluses in exchange of that. So here my proposal goes around queen f6. And for example, bishop e4 is a critical continuation because white wants to take the pawn. Knight c3. I cannot I cannot defend this pawn anymore because, for example, if queen g6, then again knight takes e4, and if I take rook e1, and white wins the queen. So here black makes a long castle, knight e4 and queen g6. So how can we evaluate that position? White is a pawn up, but in exchange of that, black has a bishop pair, already an active rook on d file, and already 3 developed pieces against just 1 developed piece on e4. White's plan here is to seize initiative on king side, supported by bishop pair and by advancing pawns on king side. So rook e1 was played. Another possibility is f3, then f5 and knight f2. That would be a better continuation for white because now e5 square is weakened, so knight can go to d3 and then to e5. Yeah, but in that game my opponent played rook e1. He tried to follow opening principles to develop pieces, but it doesn't work in this case because I immediately create threats. Rook e8. I don't let white develop his dark squared bishop. So now he should defend his knight by playing f3, f5, knight f2, bishop d6. So the position has changed a little bit since our last evaluation. Black has already 4 developed pieces, and look that black's bishops and queen are looking on the queen side, creating some threats, and clearly white lacks of pieces on king side to protect his king. And also white did not manage to complete development of his queen side. I mean, rook on a1 is still undeveloped. So, and he doesn't have time to do that because if bishop d2, then simply rook takes e1 check. If queen e1, bishop b5, threatening to play rook e8 and rook e2, b3, rook e8, queen c1, bishop e2 with the idea bishop takes f3. And then if king h1, queen f6, with a double idea on d4 and queen h4, and black has a very good compensation for the pawn. So, and if bishop d2 take and bishop e1, then queen h6, creating an immediate threat in h2. So as we see, black sacrifices a pawn and doesn't let white to finish development by creating permanent threats. So knight h3 and then g5 with the idea g4. Black is all the time creating threats, as we see. Bishop d2, queen g7, and now g4 or f4 is a threat, and white is still undeveloped, as we see. So if, for example, rook takes e8, then simply rook takes e8, and all black's pieces are developed, and at the same time white has really big problems with development of his queen side pieces. Bishop d2 and bishop b5, and black threatens to play bishop e2 and bishop takes f3. So in the game white plays knight d3, which is a logical move. Knight wants to go to e5, or supporting bishop f4. But now queen f6 is a strong move. I don't allow white to play knight e5, how it was played. And if white plays something like c3, then I can play queen h4, creating the threat on h2 and on e1. So if g3, then simply bishop takes g3 wins. King f1 and then f4. And bishop h3 is a decisive threat. So queen f6 is a very good move because it also removes the possibility for white to play bishop f4 because of the same idea, queen takes d4 check. So white understood that he's not any more better, so he has to fight for the equality. So he played knight e5, forcing the exchange of the bishop on knight. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and rook takes e5. So now we have different colored bishops, which gives really perfect chances for draw for white. But since black has a better development, he has some initiative. So bishop f4, rook e1 check, queen e1, rook e8. So black has 3 developed pieces against just 1 developed piece by white. So after queen b4, I'm trying to make use of that, because next move which is coming by white would be rook e1, exchanging rooks with immediate draw. So I play g5. My plan is to deactivate the white's bishop and activate mine on diagonal h1, a8. So I want to open up the big diagonal and make my bishop active there. So bishop g3 and f4. I'm limiting the activity of white's bishop, as we see. It's limited, it's really restricted by black's pawns. But now white is able to exchange his rooks, which gives him more chances to make draw. But still, black has some initiative because more space and possibility to open up the big diagonal and g-file and to get to g2 pawn. So bishop c6. Okay, black has advantage because of more active bishop and possibility of creating an attack on the king side. The idea of queen g6 and g4. So queen c3, queen e6, double attack on e1 and a2, b3, king b7, and h5. Black is promoting his plan based on opening up the diagonal for the light squared bishop. Bishop d2, queen f5, king f1, and queen a3. So black managed to invade with his queen to a2. So queen takes a2 is a threat. So white played a good move h4, activating his bishop. Now after g takes h4, bishop takes a4, white can create his own ideas to black's king after queen h7 and queen takes c7. So now position is double-edged, but still black is the first one to win the pawn. Queen takes a2, queen h7, and king a6. If queen takes c7 now, then queen takes c2, simply. So he made check, bishop b5, c4, bishop c6. Bishop c7, so material is equal now, but I have more active pieces, and I try to make use of that. So check, check, and king g1, a decisive mistake in this game. He had to play king f1, and it seems that the white manages to hold the position. But after king g1, black has a really nice shot h3, using that point that white's bishop is on c7. So in case of g takes h3, queen g7 check would come with double attack on g1 and c7. So queen g6 was played, then king b7, attacking the bishop and protecting my own bishop on c6. So bishop d6 and queen takes b3. And white's position is in ruins now. So So white played bishop e8 with the idea in mate in 1, queen takes a7, but black simply takes queen c4, and black's king escapes to b5. So queen a1, and white loses all his pawns now. King b7, bishop g3, and queen c3, and white resigned because he is losing his f3 pawn, and the ending with different color bishops and pawns on h5 and b6 is easily won for black, because white's king and bishop are not able to blockade those pawns. So which conclusion can we make from this game? So this is still a theory, and here my proposal goes here to play queen f6 to sacrifice a pawn, a positional sacrifice. In exchange of that, black gets a bishop pair and possibility to create the attack on king side. As we can see, black succeeded in that. So bishop d6 and many possibilities for black, like queen h5, then g5, g4, and so on.